I'm James Clance, and I'm the Senior Research Fellow at the Diabetes Medical Research Institute. I've been involved in medical research, diabetes research specifically, for 33 years. I'm making this documentary because I want you to know the truth, which is that even though your doctor may have brainwashed you into thinking it's impossible, you can reverse your type 2 diabetes in the next 7 days. And even type 1 diabetics can benefit dramatically from the information that I'll be sharing. I also want to show you that why the theory that you need to lose weight in order to reverse your diabetes is an outright lie. The reality is that the 2 fattest countries on earth also have some of the world's lowest rate of diabetes. And you're going to see how that startling fact led to the most important diabetes breakthrough of the last half century, a discovery that finally pinpoints the root cause of diabetes for both type 1 and type 2 diabetics. And that proves the entire concept of insulin resistance is a completely outdated model of thinking. It's a condition that's currently preventing blood sugar absorption and regulation in every diabetic in the world. But that was only recently uncovered by scientists at the University of Auckland in New Zealand and Manchester University in England, after concluding a 20-year-long study involving thousands of diabetics. It's called toxic pancreatic congestion. And I want to explain to you exactly what toxic pancreatic congestion, or TPC, is, and how it works to aggressively shut down your body's insulin production and cause insulin resistance, even when your pancreas is actually 100% healthy. Inside this documentary, I also want to tell you why a secret twin brother of insulin, something called amylin, which mainstream diabetes researchers have been ignoring for years, actually holds the key to quickly and easily defeating toxic pancreatic congestion, minimizing diabetic symptoms, and taking blood sugar levels back down to normal. One of the best parts, in my opinion, is that using the method to defeat your diabetes doesn't require any drugs, workout plans, or dieting. And it also doesn't involve the use of insulin. Actually, using insulin for diabetes can be one of the worst decisions you'll ever make. And a few moments from now, you're going to hear a pretty terrible insulin horror story, something that will probably scare the daylights out of you. In fact, you're going to feel a little freaked out more than once you watch this documentary, especially when we get to the part where I reveal a secret website that tells people exactly how much money their doctor is taking from the pharmaceutical companies each year. You'll hear about a doctor in California who took in almost $4.5 million in 2013 to promote Januvia and Jonamet, 2 leading diabetes drugs, to his patients. And you'll see exactly how to find out if your doctor is on the list too, along with how much he or she is taking in bribes each year. It's probably a pretty disturbing amount, but it might not surprise you. You probably always had a sickening suspicion that there was some powerful corporate interests operating behind the scenes, spending billions of dollars to keep you sick so that you never get off their medications. Now, I'm willing to bet that if you're watching this right now, it's because you already know deep down inside that jabbing yourself with insulin needles and taking handfuls of meds simply doesn't work. You also realize that while dieting and exercising may play some small role in your overall health, they can never solve the root cause of your diabetes or fixing insulin and blood sugar problems. Well, that's exactly why the toxic pancreatic congestion destroying protocol you'll be learning about today is so exciting. My reasons for becoming a diabetes medical researcher are personal. My father was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes in February of 1982. He always took all of the pharma drugs that his doctor prescribed to him without a single objection. But his condition still got worse and worse until he finally went totally blind in both eyes in 1993. My dad was always my hero growing up. He served 3 tours of duty in Vietnam, where he saw more active combat than he cared to talk about. And after retiring from the Navy, my father took a job as a commercial airline pilot and flew some of the longest transcontinental routes that they had for another 22 years. As a little boy, I can't even begin to explain the immense pride I always felt in telling people that my dad was a war veteran and an airline pilot. I thought he was invincible and that he'd live forever, which is why I'll never forget the day on February of 1982 when the doctors told him he had type 2 diabetes. Well, none of us knew what it meant or what the implications were at the time. And we hoped that with the medication that he'd been prescribed, along with his daily insulin shots, that he'd be fine. It didn't work out that way, though. Pretty soon, my dad's energies began to drain. He also had to urinate more and more frequently, especially at night. And as a result of feeling tired all of the time and constantly needing to get up and go to the bathroom, the airline had to take him off the transcontinental route. And before long, the only routes my father could fly were short regional ones, usually under an hour. And with that, he had to take a big pay cut, which put tremendous financial pressure on the whole family because we were paying an arm and a leg for all of my dad's medications. All of that probably still would have been fine, except for the blindness. My father first noticed his vision was deteriorating in 1990. It forced him to give up flying, the thing that he loved the most and more than anything else in the world besides God and his family. And in 1993, despite all of his medications and all of the lifestyle changes, and even one experimental procedure, my dad was pronounced medically blind. It was as if his whole life had just been snatched away from him. And suddenly, the man who was my hero and I thought was invincible was completely helpless. When I bring my kids over to visit, he couldn't even watch his own grandchildren playing in the backyard because diabetes had robbed him of that simple joy. Well, from the time my dad was first diagnosed with diabetes, I became obsessed with trying to find a way to help him. Back then in the mid-'80s, I was mostly studying the traditional stuff like insulin and medication, along with diet and exercise. You already probably know firsthand that while insulin and medication can help in the short run, they can't permanently reverse your diabetes. The doctor was always telling my dad that his type 2 diabetes was caused by his obesity, and that if he was just going to work out and lose some weight, that things could actually get better. The junk that they were telling me and my dad about diet and exercise, well, we've heard it all before, and we know it doesn't work. So why are doctors obsessed with exhausting workouts and calorie counting when they know that they really don't cure diabetes? Is it just an innocent ignorance, or is there something a little bit more sinister going on here? That's a question I set out to answer. And the deeper I dug, the more disturbing things got. Now, I'm not just talking about the basic statistics that we've all heard a million times by now, like how diabetes is a $245 billion a year industry, or how the average diabetic patient is worth more than $14,000 to the drug companies, or how having diabetes can increase your insurance premiums by $1,200 a year or more. Really, the ugliness of the diabetes industry goes a lot deeper than all of that. And the more you research it, the more you realize the systematic and all-encompassing corruption of American medicine as we know it. There's actually a website set up by a small group of health advocates that will show you just how much money your doctor takes in bribes each year from drug makers. The amount will probably shock you. For example, using this website, I found out that one of the most prominent diabetes researchers in America was taking in almost $4.5 million per year in money from Merck Pharmaceuticals, a medical drug giant who happens to also be the maker of Januvia, the #2 best-selling diabetes drug in America, and Jonamet, the #8 best-selling diabetes drug in America as well. And that was just from the start. I saw that one of the most prominent university research departments in the US was taking $2,658,437 per year from pharma conglomerate AstraZeneca, money that was being used in part to research and promote the diabetes drug Onglyza. and so was one of the largest hospitals in Boston, Massachusetts. In 2013 alone, they accepted a whopping $29 million from AstraZeneca to research drugs Onglyza and other drugs. Now, the fact that doctors, universities, and hospitals across the country are being paid millions, even tens of millions of dollars to study and promote big pharma medications isn't just alarming. It can also be deadly. Remember the $32 million plus that AstraZeneca paid to just one hospital and university to research and promote drugs like Onglyza? Well, on April 14th, 2015, the FDA's Endocrinologic and Metabolic Advisory Committee voted 14-1 in favor of forcing AstraZeneca to change the labeling of Onglyza. Why did they do that? Because in a post-marketing study, they found that this supposedly safe diabetes drug, which had been prescribed by thousands of doctors across the country, actually led to a 27% increase in hospitalizations for heart failure, along with a higher risk of all-case mortality or death. So like I said, this is terrifying and disturbing stuff. And as a patient, you can trust your doctor to take care of you. You expect them to follow the Hippocratic Oath and do no harm. What you don't expect them to do is put money over your health, to the point of happily writing prescriptions for poorly tested but highly marketed drugs that could kill you cold. And it's more common than you think. In fact, today, and for the first time in history, more people die from prescription drugs each year than die from motor accidents. They're killed by everything from Vioxx and Bextra, Paxil, and Premtel. And estimates based on studies from the Journal of American Medical Association put the number of deaths from prescription drugs at well over 100,000 every year. Beyond prescription drugs, 1 in every 368 Americans die each year from medical treatments that were supposedly to help them. That's 780,000 unnecessary deaths from medical malpractice, unclean hospitals, and unnecessary surgeries each year. So the dangers of this reckless roulette that your doctor plays with your life are very real. Isn't it ironic that the very medications that are supposed to protect us from our diabetes actually kill us faster? How angry does that make you feel? How mad are you that your doctor and drug companies look at you and see nothing but a dollar sign? And if you're not angry, then there's something wrong, because you should be. I'm pretty sure that if my dad had steered clear of money-hungry, pill-pushing doctors, he might still be alive today. Unfortunately, however, Dad didn't know what we do know now. And he died in 2001, blind, his spirit's completely broken. And when my father died, something snapped inside of me. And I realized that I'd been working in all of the wrong places during my quest to find a diabetes cure. That the solution wasn't going to come from a new wonder drug, or from starving yourself, or from running on the treadmill for hours each day until your knees ache and you have trouble getting out of bed. I knew there had to be something else. And there was something else out there. Something that would allow diabetes victims all over the world to break free from the clutches of corporate medicine and to get revenge on the pharmaceutical conglomerates who had poisoned and killed so many of our loved ones, our fathers, our mothers, spouses, and siblings, even our children. So I went to work searching for the cure. And it wasn't until 4 years ago that I made the discovery that would ultimately change everything. And it all started when I happened across an article about the rate of obesity in different countries around the world. Right at the beginning, the authors had listed the 10 fattest countries on Earth. And I was really surprised to find that both the Cook Islands and the Micronesia were at the top of the list. Now, the reason I was so surprised is that I already knew from my years of research that both of these countries had very low rates of diabetes. And I couldn't help but wonder, how could it be possible that these two countries could have such extremely high rates of obesity, yet so few diabetics? I mean, Haven't we all been told that diabetes is caused by obesity? And why was the data showing something completely opposite? And I really do mean completely opposite, because the contrast is striking. Micronesia is the second fattest country in the world. 91.1% of their population is obese, and yet they rank 126 in the world for diabetic prevalence. Meanwhile, the Cook Islands is the third fattest country in the world, with 90.9% of the entire population being considered medically obese. Yet there are 139 countries in the world that have a higher rate of diabetes than them. Now, how could this be? I had no idea, but I was fascinated. So I packed up my things, got on a plane, and flew to both of these countries to begin studying the people who lived there. It was one hell of a flight. But fortunately, once I got there, traveling between the two countries wasn't that difficult. Actually, they were both right off the coast of New Zealand. And a few months into my trip, I received my first lucky break. It turned out that there was a New Zealand researcher from the University of Auckland out there, and he'd been studying diabetes in the region for more than 20 years. Not only that, but his research team was working in tandem with the University of Manchester in England and had recently made a huge breakthrough. Something that people in the area were saying could hold the key to finally understanding and defeating diabetes for good. Now, I'll spare you the details of all the phone calls and meetings that followed and just go right to the meat of their discovery. The breakthrough came after the university researchers undertook a massive study of something called amylin. What's interesting is that while most people have probably never even heard of amylin before, it's co-secreted in the pancreas right alongside insulin and is just as important as insulin when it comes to your body's ability to break down and absorb glucose. Well, actually, according to the research teams at the two universities, amylin was more important than insulin when it comes to diabetes. You see, what the teams had just discovered was that in people with both type 1 and type 2 diabetes, there were these large clumps of amylin buildup throughout the pancreas. So why was that an important discovery? Well, normally having some amylin in your pancreas is good. It helps break down blood glucose. And it also is responsible for making you feel full after eating. But what the research team discovered was that when you have too much amylin buildup in your pancreas, it can turn toxic. It's a condition I call toxic pancreatic congestion. And the consequences are incredibly devastating. When too much of this amylin clogs up your pancreas, it's just like having hair clogging up a shower drain. And once there is a clog, your pancreas stops co-secreting more insulin and amylin because there's nowhere for it to go. And while the insulin you do have isn't able to enter your bloodstream and trigger the absorption of glucose, and that's what happens. You get the textbook definition of diabetes. No new insulin being produced. The insulin that you do have is not being able to enter your bloodstream, and as a result of the sugar in your bloodstream not getting broken down. Okay, so why is all of this important? First, it shows that the cause of your type 2 diabetes is not insulin resistance. In other words, it's not that the cells in your body have become resistant to insulin, but rather that they aren't getting insulin at all. When you think about it, it makes sense, because insulin resistance is medically defined as a condition in which cells in the body don't have the insulin they need to absorb glucose properly. Now, the second reason this discovery was so important was because it meant that while the toxic buildup of amylin may be causing your pancreas to malfunction, your pancreas is not fundamentally broken. To understand what I'm saying, let me use an analogy. I want you to think of your pancreas as a thermostat. Say it's a warm summer day and you set your thermostat to 72 degrees. Your thermostat then signals your air conditioner to turn on. And once the temperature in your home reaches 72 degrees, your thermostat signals the air conditioner again, telling it to turn off. Imagine what would happen, though, if the thermostat's temperature sensor malfunctioned. So it could no longer actually detect the temperature in the room. Even if it were 90 degrees in the room, your thermostat wouldn't start producing more cold air because it would still think it's 72 degrees. Well, in an instance like this, it's pretty safe to say that your air conditioner isn't broken. It's actually working just fine. The problem is that your air conditioner just doesn't know that it needs to start producing more cold air because your thermostat isn't communicating with it. Well, it's the same way with your pancreas. And just like a thermostat, your pancreas has a natural setting that regulates the amount of insulin and amylin being produced. But when those amylin clumps build up, they prevent your pancreas from being able to sense the need for more amylin and insulin. As a result, your pancreas shuts off and you become diabetic. But just like the air conditioner, it's safe to say that your pancreas isn't broken, because if it was, you'd have pancreatitis and the abdominal pain, frequent vomiting, and rapid weight loss that goes with it. And instead, what's happening is that your pancreas simply doesn't know that it needs to be producing more insulin because those toxic clumps of amylin have disrupted the signal. So what all of this meant was that it could simply find a way to remove the amylin clumps to relieve the toxic pancreatic condition. Then, in theory, the pancreas should immediately realize that something was wrong. And once you start producing the necessary levels of insulin and amylin needed to properly absorb glucose and reverse diabetes, it's just like the sensors inside of a gasoline pump. You pump gas until the sensor receives a signal that your gas tank is full. Then the pump automatically shuts off. That seemed to be exactly what was happening in the pancreas. Except in this case, even though the gas tank was empty, the sensors in the pump kept saying that the tank is full. As a result, your body spends every day out of fuel. The question became, how do we destroy that toxic buildup of amylin that's clogging your body's engine so that it can once again start pumping out the normal levels of insulin required for you to be healthy again? Unfortunately, the university researchers hadn't gotten that far. And I knew that I was going to be on my own when it came to uncovering this answer. The good news was I knew exactly where to start: the people in the Cook Islands and Micronesia. After all, these people were all incredibly obese, yet hardly any of them were getting diabetes. Why was that? And so I returned to my studies, spending more than 6 months analyzing everything they did. It quickly became apparent that there was only one major thing that set these people apart from the folks here in the US and other Western countries, and that was what they ate. Both the Cook Islands and Micronesia are pretty remote from the rest of the world, which means that much of their diet are made up of foods that are grown or caught locally, not imported from some industrial food center. Now, that's not to say that you can only get the foods that they eat by traveling to the South Indian Ocean. Actually, pretty much of everything that they eat can be found here in American supermarkets without any trouble. But the difference is that while the foods that they eat can be found anywhere, the people on these islands eat them much more frequently than we in the West do. And they also eat them in some very specific ways, much differently than how you and I normally eat a meal. So I took my decades of experience studying nutrition, biology, and physiology and put it to work. As soon as I began analyzing the nutritional content of the foods that these people in the Cook Islands and Micronesia were eating, it became shockingly obvious why they were almost immune to diabetes. Their diets were filled with crucial nutrients that played a vital role in the health of their pancreas. Specifically, many of the fruits, grains, and meats that they regularly ate were loaded with nutrients that stimulated the production of pancreatic enzymes. Pancreatic enzymes are vital to both the health of your pancreas and your body as a whole. But while the pancreas naturally produces about 8 cups of pancreatic enzymes per day, in diabetics, that number can be less than even half the amount. And the consequences of such a pancreatic enzyme deficiency are huge. Pancreatic enzymes help improve your digestion and break down the fats, starches, proteins, and sugars inside your body. They also help to improve blood circulation, boost the immune system, and decrease inflammation. But even more vitally than all of that, Pancreatic enzymes have been shown to help eliminate waste products from the pancreas, meaning that if I could help diabetics start getting the normal 8 ounces of pancreatic enzymes that they needed again, it stood to reason that they might also be able to eliminate all of the excess amylin that they've been building up like toxic waste inside of their pancreas. With a potentially revolutionary theory in hand, I returned to the United States to further pursue this theory. Then, for over a year, our team worked around the clock to develop this pancreas healing strategy until finally what we call the CRS protocol was born. CRS stands for Circulation, Repair, and Signaling, and I want to explain exactly how it works right now. Pancreatic enzymes were just one piece of the puzzle. Stopping your pancreatic enzyme deficiency could help to restart circulation and flush out all the toxic amylin waste that had been building up inside the pancreas. But even after the amylin clumps had been destroyed, there were 2 more things that still needed to happen. The first was that we needed to repair all of the pancreatic cells that had been killed as a result of the amylin buildup, especially the ones that produce insulin and amylin. And the second was that we needed a way to signal the pancreas so that it once again knew to produce insulin and amylin at healthy levels. That's where the CRS comes from. The good news was that each part of the CRS protocol could be achieved naturally, simply by adding a handful of foods that performed a certain role in the overall pancreatic healing process. For C, circulation, it was all about pancreatic enzymes, which could be gotten from a variety of fruits, vegetables, and meats, just like the people in the Cook Islands and Micronesia were doing. For R, repair, it was all about getting more of the proteins, carbs, and fats that repair cellular tissues. We found that ribeye is great for doing this, but not flank steak, for reasons I'll explain later. And for S, signaling, it was all about adding in nutrients that can help to restore hormonal balance, since your hormones are a key way the cells in your body communicate, and for that we found that egg yolks really work well, as does raw butter and salmon. So with all of these pieces in place, it was time for our team to begin testing the protocol. We started with a small group of severe diabetics, people whose conditions were so bad, doctors had pretty much given up on them. And we wrote the CRS protocol out of a simple set of guidelines for them to follow. Most clinical trials of new diabetic drugs take 6 months to a year to complete, but we were looking for results that could happen much quicker. So instead of prescribing our test subjects to follow the CRS protocol for 1 year, we simply asked them to follow it for 1 week. And we waited anxiously to see what would happen. The results were astounding. Across the board, all 120 individuals in our original study saw their blood sugar levels drop by at least 50 points, saw their pancreatic functionality improve by 72.6% on average, saw their weight drop 7 pounds on average, and all of which came from their stomach fat, and saw their insulin production and glucose absorption capabilities improve by 83%. The individuals we studied also reported significant increased levels of energy, dramatically improved sleep, a higher sex drive, and that their appetites had returned to normal. And it all happened in just 7 days. Plus, in a 6-month follow-up study, we found that all of these results remained permanent. So realizing that we had made a significant breakthrough in the battle of diabetes, we then began to share the CRS protocol on a much larger scale. And before long, we had thousands of reports coming in from all across the world, from diabetics of all walks of life, all levels of physical health, all levels of disease severity. Blood sugar levels once again being internally regulated by the body, the ability to eat all of their favorite foods again without any spikes or crashes. Even people saying that their baffled doctors had told them that they were now medically clear of diabetes and that they could stop taking their expensive medications. So this pretty much takes us to the present day and explains one of the main reasons we're making this documentary. We want to show those who are watching at home exactly how the CRS protocol works. So let's talk about how you're going to get the CRS protocol into your hands so you can actually start wielding it. By following the all-natural and completely safe CRS protocol, you get inside, you get to eliminate toxic pancreatic congestion and restore your pancreas to optimal functionality. We'll give you a comprehensive list containing all of the natural food items that fall under each step of the protocol. And you're going to be amazed by just how diverse your list and options are. We've also gone even further and made explicit instructions for how much of each food to be consumed during each part of the protocol so that you can get the maximum results. For example, here's what using the CRS protocol might look like for you during Part C. Part C, circulation. Days 1 through 3. 6 ounces of any red meat listed under Part C. 7 ounces of any of the juices listed under Part C. Can substitute with coffee if preferred. 2 tablespoons of salt. 1 tablespoon of any of the oils listed under Part C. Please do pay attention to the time of day we tell you to consume everything, as the protocol should generally be done within a 2-hour window of time each day. You'll also receive a comprehensive added support package that's brimming with additional strategies and tricks for lowering your blood sugar, burning residual fat, repairing the damage done to your body, and staying diabetes-free for the long haul. Now, let me tell you what those are right now. Now, the list of the 10 best superfoods for regulating blood sugar may surprise you. For example, you probably wouldn't expect rice pudding, number 4, to be on there, but it is. As long as you add one special ingredient to it, and you definitely wouldn't expect to find that there's only one vegetable on the entire list, even though it's absolutely true. When people order the 10 best superfoods for regulating blood sugar off our main website, we normally ask for a $17 contribution. But when you show me that you are 100% committed to reversing your diabetes, it will be yours for free. Bonus support package number 2, triggering rapid weight loss. As I already mentioned, the hormone amylin is responsible for making you feel full. Without it, you're hungry all of the time, and this can lead to increased weight gain. Once you've restored your pancreatic function by removing toxic amylin buildup, you'll naturally start feeling full more quickly, which leads to a very noticeable weight loss. With bonus support package number 2, triggering rapid weight loss, the amount of weight you lose goes from noticeable to I can't believe what I'm seeing. That's because inside, you're shown 6 shockingly simple ways to trigger what's called metabolic velocity, which is just a medical term for what happens when your metabolism begins burning fat at an increasingly fast rate. Each of the 6 trigger techniques you get in the bonus support package number 2 are completely natural and food-based. And the only thing that they require is that you eat more of the delicious foods you already love, like creamy, rich yogurt, which can be one of the best ways to shed fat around the belly, if you add this secret topping to it. And a surprisingly large group of carbs and starches that have been scientifically proven to trigger metabolic velocity fast. Bonus support package number 3, post-diabetes healing. I absolutely insist that not only do you receive the bonus support package number 3, post-diabetes healing, for free today, but that you promise to use it. Post-diabetes healing is one of the most crucial steps for your long-term success. So crucial that I'm strongly considering making it a part of the main CRS protocol. And here's why. Over the years, diabetes has been wreaking havoc on your body, from your blood circulation to your endocrine system, to your joints, to your GI tract. There isn't a single part of your body that diabetes hasn't touched. Your body will still be struggling to pick up the broken pieces of your health and put them back together. That's where post-diabetes healing comes into play. Inside this can't ignore support package, you'll be given a simple but effective protocol for healing all of the damage diabetes has done to your body. You'll be shown how to eat your way to a healthier heart using 5 cardiac healing foods, how to rapidly reduce system-wide inflammation by drinking less water each day, and cutting down your vegetable consumption by at least 50%. You'll be told about the 3 supplements that can immediately rebalance your hormonal state. Plus, how to get them for almost free by making your health insurance provider pay for them. And you'll be shown how to instantly reduce the amount of joint, back, and neck pain you experience each day by up to 86%. Normally, we ask for $47 for a contribution to get access to this post-diabetes healing. And really, that's a steal, because having this must-know knowledge strengthens every single part of your body while reducing the risks of cancer, heart attack, stroke, and other serious conditions or disease. But because it's vital to your success that you have this bonus support package, I'll be giving it to you for absolutely free. So I hope you're excited, because now it's time for you to step up and take the challenge. Once you do that, you'll be given access to the entire program, including the CRS protocol, right from the website. You'll get the surprisingly diverse list of foods and drinks for each part of the CRS protocol. Be shown specific examples of how to use the protocol for all 7 days, and receive the 3 incredibly important added support bonuses I just mentioned. Will you join us in this battle? The battle against big medicine, big pharma, even your own doctor. Will you join us in this war to banish and destroy diabetes? Are you the kind of person who is willing to stand up and fight for what you believe in? Someone who is willing to take that first crucial step to lowering your blood sugar and dramatically reversing the symptoms of your diabetes in the next 7 days? First, you're going to click the button you see below this video. We'd rather not bring money into the equation at all, and in a perfect world, we really wouldn't have to. But unfortunately, the world we live in is far from perfect, which is why the $49 contribution you make will be one of the most single, heroic actions you'll ever take in your life. But because some of the biggest advertisers on mainstream news sites are pharmaceutical companies, well, these sites have blocked us from publishing our research, calling it a conflict of interest, which means we need your help to reach the critical mass and make this go viral. So out of the $49 you contribute in exchange for your instant access, a percentage will go directly to our research department so that we can continue to discover and bring medical breakthroughs like the CRS protocol to the public, which you can do by clicking the button you see below this video right now. By accepting the challenge, you gain instant access to the CRS protocol and your 3 crucial bonus support packages. And just as importantly, you send a loud and clear message to the corporate medical murderers of this world that enough is enough. So accept the challenge now and tell all of your friends, your family, even the strangers you meet on the street to do the same. Become evangelical. Convert the lost to this noble cause. Get better and throw away your insulin needles forever. Tell your doctor you're done paying for the expensive meds he wants to force down your throat, and become part of the movement that's bigger than any single one of us. Your action today could help blast diabetes into the medical history books and give more than 100 million diabetics and pre-diabetics their freedom and their lives back. It could be the difference between that person living or dying. It could be the difference between them going blind or seeing. Your risk-free contribution could be the deciding factor between whether or not they undergo surgery or amputation, or even save their limbs naturally. You have that kind of power in your hands right now, and in this very moment, but only you can decide what you need to do with it. So thank you for watching this video and for hearing our story. No matter what you do, promise that you'll share this documentary video with the ones that you love the most, because it could be the matter of life or death. Thank you.